90-Day Fiancé Happily Ever After Recap, The Couples Tell All, Part 1. What do you get when you bring 6 dysfunctional couples together, minus one Louis, dress them up, then let them openly judge one another's abysmal choices in life? Yes, it's time for the 90-Day Fiancé Happily Ever After Couples Tell All, Part 1. Sean Robinson is back to host, Mediate the Madness, and we are here to eat our popcorn and watch how long it takes for Jorge to start lying his eyebrows clean off. Before the cast is assembled on the couch, the drama begins. Paola, who came hard for Anfisa last year calling her an ugly mail-order bride, decides to apologize to Anfisa backstage for the sake of appearances. But when she approaches Anfisa with the dead shark eyes, Paola has no idea what she's in for because homegirl just flat out ignores her before brushing right past her without a word. Immediately, Paola starts popping off about what a BTCH Anfisa is and how she's not going to beg anyone for forgiveness. And you might want to rethink this first move, pal. This is not going to end well for anyone not named Anfisa, thus, this disaster of a reunion begins and at least Molly is happy to be there without the narcissistic turd she married, although she's not sure if he'll pop up in that Space Jam shirt just to scare the SHT out of her. While Annie gets very severe makeup applied to her face, Pedro and David take bets backstage on whether they should pop an owl in their pocket for protection just in case. Nick Holland is and are Skyping in from Morocco, which is good news because technical difficulties can conveniently pop up if Azan starts getting grilled a bit too hard. Sean begins a rundown on how much the couples fought for their marriages, or in Pedro and Chantel's case, straight up fought. After a montage of this season's cookiest moments, Sean turns to the hottest dumpster fire of all, the family channel. Chantel still blames Pedro for the brawl heard around the world, but Pedro, correctly, points out that the family Chantel started the drama. They still believe Pedro is harvesting the American dollar. They also still believe harvesting the American dollar is a thing. Chantel likes to believe everything would be fine if Pedro just got along with her family, despite them wanting to investigate him. And okay. Chantel even says she and Pedro are putting having a baby on hold because of their family strife. Well, that, and because they maybe don't want the baby to come out sporting a very tiny cowboy hat like grandma? Just a thought. Anfisa and Jorge give us an update. They've apparently been reading Hallmark cards and are now reciting lines about second chances and eternal love to convince us all that they're hunky-dory. Jorge also says he's 100% sure he's not the father of his ex-girlfriend's child. No one comments, and their silence speaks volumes. But Anfisa can relate to Pedro, as her relationship with Jorge's family is as bad or worse than Pedro's is with the family channel. Just because no weaves have been yanked entirely out of anyone's head yet doesn't mean it's a better scenario. Molly admits that Luis made her feel crazy and that her life with him seems disgusting now. Plot twist. Luis has been talking to other cast members about his plight, David and Pedro. Apparently, Luis has been claiming he's a victim of domestic violence, which would help his case to stay in the country. Molly's eyes roll so far back in her head, she can hardly stay upright. She does confess that she slapped Pedro's phone that she pays for out of his hand one time when he was trolling porn sites. After a flashback to the halcyon early days of their love, like when Anfisa used to shut Jorge's phone down all the way from Russia, Sean asks Russ and Paola how things have changed. Russ, whose hair is even worse than before, if you can believe it, feels like they've grown a lot. But their acting classes have obviously not paid off. Then, because we have not been tortured enough, we are subjected to updates on everyone's sex life. Annie lets us know how the boom boom is going with David, which leaves us all a bit more traumatized than we were 5 seconds ago. Hold Me Nicole and Izan talk about their fictional sex at times, claiming that they both initiate sex equally. If by equally, Izan means that he successfully escapes via the window about 50 of the time, then okay. In a special pop-up appearance, Jorge's, unnamed, ex-girlfriend calls in to put Jorge on blast for never reaching out to her after their conversation on camera. She also claims she's been asking Jorge to get a paternity test for 10 years, but he's refused/evaded/denied every step of the way. I just never got around to it, Jorge stupidly mumbles. To be fair, guys, he's been really busy lately illegally trafficking drugs, sitting in jail, and breathing through his mouth. Anfisa just thinks this chick wants money, but the ex says no. She just wants Jorge to admit the truth. What is going to happen is divorce if Jorge does end up being the father, at least that's what Anfisa says. Molly is shocked to hear this, but Jorge accepts his fate. Russ and Paola also hop in to judge Anfisa for being so cold, but they obviously don't know who they're dealing with. We think Eric at Jane gives zero fucks? Nope. Anfisa is the poster child for giving absolutely, positively zero fucks. Alright, it's time to dive into the trash barrel of Nicole and Ism's relationship. They still don't have clear answers on why Ism's K1 visa was denied, except that he is a known con artist. Before Ism can flee the scene or unplug the webcam, Annie and David are on the hot seat next. David's daughter, Ashley, Skypes in to talk about what a lousy father David has been. And although Annie has put forth a lot of effort in getting to know her, David is still acting like a neglectful, selfish a-hole. Annie did hurt Ashley's feelings when she talked smack about her breeding like a rabbit with different baby daddies. Despite Ashley's feelings, Annie has no regrets. It's honest, she shrugs. "You don't know one fucking thing about me," shouts Ashley, who has more dirt on Annie than Annie has on her. "We know how she met Dad," says Ashley, which and yeah. We all do. For some reason though, Annie is still sticking to her karaoke bar story, come what may. David says Chris's wife, Nikki, told David's kids that David met Annie in and him and a ping pong bar. But David vehemently denies it, so it must be true. Ha 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 ha. Next, David bawls his eyes out when Ashley says she still loves him despite his pathetic ways. But Annie, despite loving David's boom boom ass, can't live on love alone. Nor can she live above a storage unit facility with only a hot plate to keep her warm at night. she's heading back to Thailand if David can't clean up his act soon, which should begin with purchasing significantly larger khakis.